press. But on your own account, you've been a senior manager in the police since around 2011, right?
That's correct. Well, maybe let me rephrase. A senior manager in the police is when you become a brigadier. So that will take me back to 2005.
Wow. So that's a long time. And you clearly have a lot of clout in the police. You're a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I'm a serviceman to be reckoned with, not the force.
The issues that you raised at your press conference, these are not new issues.
That's correct.
Anybody who lives in South Africa who is even moderately knowledgeable,
that's correct,
has some idea, perhaps not of the extent, but has some idea of these problems.
That's correct.
And they haven't been getting better, they've been getting worse. We're all aware of this. So while you were in the senior management of the police since 2005, and I understand a brigadier is not necessarily in the kind of position to do it, but a general certainly is. What did you do to address these issues, to try and change the trajectory of the police service, which we must admit has been a downward one?
Honourable Member, in my past experience in the police, in different levels where I managed, I've dealt with a lot of bad things, and I've corrected them myself in those extent, but not to the bigger scale of the entire organization. That was within the space where I was operating, from the unit level all the way up until I was a task force. I left the task force and I became a component head. The former divisional commissioner, Lamour, who was once my boss, Gerald Motiva, who was my boss, Gerald Mawela, who was once my boss, they can attest to that I will challenge things while working as a brigadier and as a major general.
No, I have no doubt that you challenge things, General. But the question is more, why on a greater level, why on a more broader spectrum? What did you do to change things in the police, to change the trajectory? Not unit bound. I understand that in your own unit you probably jack things up. But I mean, as a senior manager, your concern should be for the entire organization. So what did you do to do that?
Yeah, well, beside the actions that we took last year, July, I had an opportunity to act as a national commissioner in 2011, 2012.
Correct.
The interventions that I started with there was to temporarily remove the management of crime intelligence because I wanted to clean house.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't last in the office much. When I was removed, Jarpiaka came in, things went back to normal. So that was my attempt to try and clean things up.
Okay.
At the time, many people were being investigated, and amongst others.
So what are the changes that you implemented in that short period? I think you were acting National Police Commissioner from around October 2011 to around June 2012.
That's correct.
So what are the changes that you brought in then when you had the chance?
One of the things that was critical for me was to reduce the number of generals that we had. And one of the things I had said to General Matlala, who was the head of HR at the time, that if any lieutenant general leaves, we don't fill that post. Whether that person leaves at the province, we move someone from head office to the province. But we must cut down, because when I came in, maybe I was a number almost 40 of the lieutenant generals that we had in the police. So that, for me, was a problem, because a lot of infighting at the head office, especially.
Just as a matter of interest, why are there so many lieutenant generals?
Well, it ended up being a party thing. I get into a position of authority. I want to move my friend to that level. I create a division and appoint that person.
That's really not a good reason. But
well, some of the members ask here, why did the president appoint Mkhwanazi overnight and promote him to lieutenant general? I did not apply for the position. I just became a major general while was still enjoying 5 months to be a major general. Next thing, I'm promoted to a lieutenant general. You asked me whether was it a good thing. It benefited me financially, but honestly speaking, we are too many. And yes, I don't think it was ideal to even appoint me. There were many lieutenant generals that could have been appointed at the time, but they chose me. Well, in choosing me, automatically meant they must now elevate me to the same level with the others. And that cost the state money.
I agree that there are way too many. Yeah. Now, the issues that you raised in your press conference are all important issues. But why didn't you raise them before July 2025? Why did you allow the position to become so desperate? If you did raise them, where did you raise them? And don't go back to the history of the portfolio committee. We know this. What did you do in the police to raise these issues?
Yeah, well, we've had a number of meetings with the National Commission trying to address this. That's why I even engaged the minister myself directly, because I wanted to get to understand what makes him to come with this decision. And what I was beginning to see, up to April, I tried to reach out to him again through the WhatsApp, which he acknowledged, because I wanted to raise this with him internally so that we can resolve it. But it proved that I was not successful in doing it.
So is there just a general apathy, a sort of a laid-back attitude? Or is this, something that's done on purpose?
I wouldn't know, Honourable Member. I must say the actual press briefing happened immediately after I was given a statement by the National Commissioner that distanced himself from what was happening. Because I kept on saying, General, these dockets are gone. Did you authorize? There are many of these things happening. Did you authorize? He says, no. I said, statement. And he hasn't given me a statement. So I kept waiting. I kept asking. And I ended up saying to him, we need to go public now and tell South Africa about what's happening, because it looks like we're not finding a solution. And when he said, we can have a press briefing, because I said, I want to have a press briefing about the PKTT work. He said, oh, you can have a press briefing. And I said, but before that, can you help me to clarify this issue of the PKTT through the statement? Then he said, okay, take a statement. When I got that statement, that's when I said, now I can move. Nobody will turn back on me.
So yesterday, General Masemola said he thought that you went a little overboard with your press briefing.
Yeah, well, he knew the things that we're raising over time. He had committed that he was going to address that with the president when he returns from Brazil, because I've heard that stories many times. That things have been addressed. I felt, no, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Let me.
While we're talking about the press conference, and then I'll move off it, just as a matter of interest, why did you feel the need to dress the way you dressed, as opposed to wearing your normal uniform or a suit?
As I said, Honourable Member, when I was talking to the members before, that as things were building up, as we're assessing what is happening and assessing the danger that we're facing, I then engage, and most those behind me are task force members.
Yes.
So I started to engage them, and I said, I think there's some kind of a takeover of government that is happening. When people want to control security cluster, they are going to take over government. And we reached a stage where we must face an enemy head on. So let's communicate the message directly and indirectly so. I asked the National Commissioner for permission to dress like that, and he gave me permission to. I still had my uniform anyway. So that's why we put it on.
Okay, I'm sure you're entitled to wear it. Why did you think that there was some force trying to take over South Africa?
Yeah, we knew from analysis that we're seeing that once General Sibiya ascended to the position of the head of the police, with the relationship that he has with other key players within the security cluster, from intelligence to the NPA to presiding officers, some within judiciary, it is easy then for them to drive the country towards where they want. But what is a force behind them are these people that are controlling money. And the biggest pain on the people controlling money are within this drug business. That was a painful thing. And maybe members don't know, once you control the security cluster, you take over the country.
Yes,
that's where we were going. That's what we're seeing happening.
So I assume that you don't have to do it now, but I assume that you can prove these connections between General Sibiya, the NPA, and the judiciary.
Well, Honourable Member, you know the court process is about the admissibility of evidence. There are things that you can be able to admit in court, but the things that might be factually there but are not admissible in court. A typical example, if I were to come to you as a prosecutor and say, I've intercepted this communication between this one and that one, I've got this record of this one and that one, bank movements of money and so forth. The first question you're going to ask me, how did you access it?
Certainly.
Exactly. So for that, you might not accept it in court because of that. But it does not necessarily mean it's not happening.
No, that's true.
There's a typical thing that we have. We can prove things to you on facts, but might not necessarily be admissible in court of law. But because it's things that we have to go beyond the normal way of gathering evidence, because of the enemy we see before us, we had to gather information in that fashion. People were recorded, and they were, while they're talking to each other, photos were taken, and so forth.
Are you saying that you gathered evidence illegally?
We got that evidence through intelligent means.
Yes, that's an answer to the question. In your view, General, what are the changes and reforms that are immediately essential in the police and in the wider criminal justice system to correct the trajectory of the police and the criminal justice system?
Honourable member, when I appeared here before, I raised something that majority of members seems to be warming up to it, except one member, Honourable Julius Malema, also not totally objecting, but he said we still debate. This country is big. The Constitution written gives the powers to one person to be responsible for your safety in the country. That is this big. To the extent that all the powers are centralized at the head office, that on its own increases the risk that this country is facing, what we are talking about today. I might not be in a good position to say you must devolve this from the national office to the provincial, but it is my own conclusion that we have to, or government must look at this monster of an organization and do benchmark internationally. There are many countries that don't have the size that we have. One person overseeing almost 200,000 people. I don't think it's good. That's why there's going to be shortfalls. There's going to be a lot of shortfalls in between. Performance will be compromised, and then infiltration of the bad people will happen because there's not close supervision. Yes, we might trust all these managers that you've employed, but there's going to be problems that we have. So for me, I feel we might want to look at the risk mitigation measures against what we've seen that has happened or almost happened. Because if you have a wrong person as the head of this organization, a wrong person as head of DPCI, a wrong person as the head of crime intelligence, then we are doomed.
Yes, I agree with you on that point. Now, your contract, whether you're aware of it or not, is, according to the newspapers, about to be extended for another 5 years. How do you, if it is extended, how do you propose to use this platform to effect the changes that you want to see done? How are you going to do that?
Honourable member, I'm a provincial commissioner now. If I'm going to be one next month, I will still be one. But the provincial commissioner is given powers by the Constitution. And the Constitution says this person must account to the provincial executive. But at this present moment, there is not a direct accounting to the provincial government. I inform them as and when they need to know. They can't hold me accountable for anything. The fact that the citizens elevate this leadership in a province to be in charge, and the citizen says health, safety, social, and everything that we need to be provided with education. When it comes to security, there's limitation that that executive in that provincial government can do. Whereas the Constitution says that provincial government must contribute to the appointment of these men and women to be a provincial commissioner. It ends there. Be part of the appointment, but when it comes to the accounting part, they are not involved. I think that's part of the problems. I might be a provincial commission, wish that I can do A to Z, but I've got so much limitations that I cannot do it. So most look at this present moment. We have vacancies. I've said before, I cannot appoint a brigadier in the police. In my own province, I cannot. I must write to my colleague at the head office and seek permission. My colleagues will advertise when he or she feels like, and will bring that approval to me. I do shortlisting. I send the names to them for verification. And they decide to approve or not approve the shortlist. They bring them to me. I do the interviews. I submit 3 names recommended. It doesn't matter how best is this one. But if they feel because of the color of the skin, equity or otherwise, we take number 3.
Sure.
It doesn't matter how I feel about it. Number 3 is going to be appointed in that position. So these are all the limitations that the Provincial Commission has. While you want to make a difference, but there's this limitation which I've engaged with the provincial executive. I've been talking to the police management that please devolve some level of authority or powers to the provincial office so that it's a provincial commissioner with a provincial government that might say we have a problem in that place. We need a police station there. That the provincial commissioner doesn't have to write to the head office to ask for that police station to be there. He can just create that structure, obvious following the prescripts that are there. So those are limitations that if I were to be still granted the opportunity to be a provincial commissioner, I would still cry for. Because it doesn't have that you have the rank, the title, but no authority.
Okay, then there's another story during the rounds that I must have misunderstood somehow. There's a suggestion that you are suggesting that there was a sort of a second shadow government somewhere in waiting, a union building somewhere on a farm. Did you discuss that? And if so, what is that about?
What I said in the past, Honorable Member, is that there was a gentleman that was very big in the taxi business. He's late now. He had a game farm in north of Pretoria. Talk about taxi bosses, talk about business people, very prominent one. Talk about politicians, very prominent one. Will all make a turn in that place. I had conducted a peace talk in KZN on the Texas. He came there. I think he did not appreciate what I said in that meeting. When he left, I had this thing from people that are close to him. One of them is this Sergeant Nkosi, because he grew up with him there. He was his father. Where this man says, I want Mkhwanazi to come to the farm. If you can't bring Mkhwanazi to the farm, that means you don't have control over Mkhwanazi. Because he believed that if you come to the farm, it's a sign of respect to him. So everyone, that means they walk into that farm or drive into that farm, they are subjecting themselves to his authority. So this person was that powerful, that man. So many people were associated with him. That's why I'm saying there was that parallel kind of managing the country that was run in a farm. And there are many people of his, some of them brought us here today that were attending this gathering. So that's why I'm saying the majority of the politicians know him very well. And so he goes, he passes on, other people want to take over from him. So that's why we had to stop. General Sibiya says at one stage, communicating to Matlala, that I don't have anyone else to look after me except you, Matlala. Mswati is gone. So when you have a general saying that, he's handing himself over to Ken Matlala by that communication. It's a worry. It tells you that we were almost having a problem. But it's something that was there for many years.
Okay, we keep hearing about the Big Five cartel. So now we know that at least Katie Molefe and Kat Matlala are apparently members of the cartel, and you today told us about Mr. Motsumai or Mr. Motsuma, who I assume is a member of the cartel. And we don't know who the others are. But what is being done to apprehend these people and stop this cartel business?
There's serious investigation underway, Honorable Member. That's why we're fighting for that counterintelligence to be allowed to continue to work. Under your supervision, of course, so that they don't abuse whatever they are doing themselves. But that's what we wanted them to be allowed to do, because they cracked that investigation and they're running with it. And I might just say before everyone here that I might not disclose everything before the ad hoc committee because of the investigation. But the one famous person that is known as Vusmu's cat Matlala, he was placing himself, he was trying to replace one of the big five. But he was actually a proxy of one of them before. So in this scheme of things of the big five, he's nothing. He's a non-starter. So he's a small fish in a pond.
Not sure he'd be happy to hear that, but
Yeah, he knows it himself. He knows it himself. There are big bras that generals are afraid to call their names about.
now you say you removed General Sentumela at Crime Intelligence. Was that while you were acting commissioner?
That's correct.
And that's why you had the power to do it?
That's correct.
Where did you move her to?
I sent it to HRU, Human Resource Utilization.
See. But after that, she became the head of many different departments.
Yeah, that's correct. She came from into the crime intelligence as a brigadier. From there, she went to DPCI as a major general, and shortly after that, back to crime intelligence. I sent her to HR. Next thing, she got promoted and became a divisional commissioner of crime detection. And next thing, she's an acting national commissioner, or she's a deputy national commissioner.
And why did you only remove her when crime intelligence was and is still,
I must be honest,
driven with corruption?
I must be honest, I could only deal with senior management. So I removed all of them. But I must say, not all of them were removed because they did wrong. It was a temporal arrangement to make sure that investigation is done without being compromised. And one of them, who was a good man at crime intelligence, was General Henkel. He was among those people that are temporarily placed out. But when General Piaga came and placed General Ngcobo there, General Ngcobo transferred General Henkel amongst others permanently out. And the reason used is that he's got no security clearance. And General Stolle was investigating. He came to me when I was kept at home. I said to General Stolle, Ngcobo does not have powers to remove General Henkel permanently because it was temporal. Number one, he's an acting divisional commissioner of intelligence. He's got no powers to move someone to another division without the division receiving. That's one. Two, Ngcobo himself has got no security clearance. So how can you not have a security clearance and you want to remove someone else that has one? Because you're alleging that he received it fraudulently. So the road continued at the time when Piaga came. It just went on. Ngcobo came, did his things. Myself, Khumalo, we became a target of state security and SSA because it was alleged at the time that we were keeping this very secret document that was going to compromise the former President Zuma at the time. So we were enemies of intelligence community from that time.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chair.